Good morning, colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, uh, representative of the EAF countries, donors, agencies, and partners. Welcome to Geneva. It's nice to be back here once again for me, and I am happy to see some familiar faces here in the room. So it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first session of the EAF Global Forum. My name is Kevin Long. Some of you may know know me from my previous posting here in Geneva, but I am now back in Capitol, and I am the Director General for International Trade at the Ministry of Commerce in Cambodia, and I will be the moderator for this session. As you may all be well aware, the goal number one of the EAF program is to improve the trade institutional environment for inclusive and sustainable growth in the LDCs. The themes that we will cover this sessions constitute the objectives set in this goal number one. The session is devoted to learning and sharing experiences from countries and agencies on how the EAF programs has contributed to the promotions of integrations and sustainability of the EAF National Implementation Units, or the NIUs, and how the EAF program has contributed to enhancing trade coordinations and trade mainstreamings in the LDCs. So there will be three themes that we shall address here by our esteemed panelists. The three themes are NIU sustainability, trade coordinations, and trade mainstreaming. We are fortunate to have a distinguished panel of speakers who will be sharing their experiences on these three themes, including on key achievements, existing challenges, and ongoing actions to address existing challenges. So let me go through the list of speakers. First, we have His Excellency Ambassador Sambu Antas, the Ambassador and Permanent Missions of Vanuatu in Geneva. Second, we have Mr. Paulang Zambalongo, who is the Country Coordinator at the EAF Secretariat. Third, we have Ms. Latanapon Wongsuthi, NIU Coordinator of the Lao PDR. Fourth, we have Mr. Edmund Mologodo, who is the NIU Coordinator from the Central African Republic. And last but not least, we have Ms. Marlene Hopper, who is the Deputy Head and Lead on Monitoring and Evaluations and Learning of the Standard of the STDF. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Bienvenu Koku, who is the Trade Policy and Private Sector Development Expert with the NIU of Benin, who will be acting as the rapporteur. So with such a rich panel, we hope that by the end of the first sessions, participants would have learned and gained new knowledge about EAF contributions to improve trade environment in the LDCs. For this session, there will be two main parts: the questions and response part with the speakers, and the talk to your neighbor part, which will engage the wider audience. So I hope you are prepared to discuss with your neighbors. So take a look to your left and right, and pick one who you would like to work with. For the first part, questions will be asked by two speakers by relevant themes, starting with the question regarding the NIU sustainability. Then we go to trade coordination, and finally on trade mainstreaming. Due to the time limit we have for this part, each speakers will be responding to a maximum of two questions, which I will ask on either of the themes. So up to 10 minutes will be allocated to respond to the two questions. So one question will be allocated 5 minutes to the speakers to respond. So before moving on to our speakers, I would like to invite Mr. Zambalongo, coordinator at the EAF Secretariat, to share EAF perspectives on different themes addressed in this session. He will shed light on how the EAF Secretariat has supported the different thematic areas and results this far. Now we have, so I would like to invite Mr. Zambalongo to deliver your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, and good morning, dear colleagues and dear partners. Donc, c'est pas une présentation en tant que telle, c'est juste pour camper le décor par rapport aux unités nationales de mise en œuvre du cadre intégré, donc UNMO. So for the interpreters, UNMO refers to NIU, National Implementation Unit. Et je vais me focaliser sur 4 aspects essentiels des unités. D'abord, d'où elles viennent, ces unités, pourquoi ces unités. Ensuite, comment ces unités ont été mises en place. Troisièmement, quel est le format des unités dans les différents pays. Et enfin, où en sommes-nous par rapport à ces unités-là. Donc, vous vous souviendrez qu'au démarrage du cadre intégré renforcé, la mise en place des unités nationales de mise en œuvre faisait partie de la mise en place des arrangements nationaux de mise en œuvre du cadre intégré renforcé, donc qui inclut le comité de pilotage, les facilitateurs des donateurs et bien sûr l'unité de mise en œuvre du cadre intégré. Et donc l'unité avait donc pour rôle de coordonner la fourniture, la mise en œuvre des projets d'aide pour le commerce, mais également de soutenir et d'appuyer les pays dans l'intégration du commerce, non seulement dans les politiques nationales de développement, mais également dans les politiques sectorielles de développement. Et ce processus de mise en place a différé d'un pays à l'autre. Ça a été plus rapide dans certains pays, un peu moins dans d'autres, mais ce processus a été soutenu par le cadre intégré à travers ce que vous connaissez, donc les projets d'appui institutionnel que nous avons, des acronymes catégorie 1, catégorie 2, mais aussi des projets de soutien à la durabilité pour faire en sorte que les résultats du cadre intégré puissent perdurer au-delà des projets. Mais il faut dire que ce processus, il est et il a été évolutif, d'accord? Donc, il y a d'abord des cas où l'unité a été mise en place comme unité autonome de mise en œuvre des projets, totalement financée par le cadre intégré renforcé, le fonds d'affectation spéciale. Et ensuite, on a, dans certains pays, migré vers un format où le gouvernement prenait en charge de façon institutionnelle, de façon des ressources humaines, le fonctionnement des unités, avec un engagement progressif, à la fois sur le plan institutionnel et aussi sur le plan financier. Donc, beaucoup de pays vont témoigner tout à l'heure sur la manière dont le financement, le soutien financier des différents ministères, des différents gouvernements a évolué au fil du temps, depuis le démarrage du cadre intégré renforcé. Donc, en termes de format, comme vous le savez, le format va dépendre du cadre institutionnel national qui est différent d'une région à l'autre et d'un pays à l'autre. Donc, nous avons des formats où l'unité est considérée comme un département du ministère en charge du commerce, avec tous les membres de l'équipe étant des fonctionnaires. C'est le cas, par exemple, du Cambodge, où tous les membres de l'équipe de l'unité sont des fonctionnaires et l'unité agit comme étant un département du ministère. Nous avons des formats où l'unité fonctionne comme une unité de mise en œuvre de projets, donc avec toute l'équipe recrutée sur la base de projets et financée par les différents projets, mais pas seulement le cadre intégré. C'est le cas, par exemple, au Rwanda, où on a des équipes qui sont payées sur la base de projets. Donc, c'est des équipes projets. Et on a des formats hybrides où nous avons les équipes composées à la fois de fonctionnaires, mais aussi des experts ou des spécialistes recrutés ou des personnels d'assistance, de soutien recrutés sur la base de projets. Donc, on a une partie de l'équipe payés par le gouvernement qui sont des fonctionnaires du gouvernement. On a une partie qui est recrutée sur la base de projets. Et parfois, des équipes recrutées sur la base de projets sont aussi payées par le budget du gouvernement. Donc, vous voyez que le format diffère d'un pays à l'autre. Heureusement, dans ce panel, nous avons des représentants des pays qui vont nous donner un peu quel est le format dans leur pays et comment est-ce que ça fonctionne et comment est-ce qu'ils en sont arrivés à ce format-là. Et où est-ce que nous en sommes aujourd'hui? Donc, on a essayé d'imaginer une façon de faire en sorte que ces unités soient intégrées dans les mécanismes du gouvernement et on a défini un certain nombre de critères d'intégration. D'accord? On en a 5. Donc, le premier critère, c'est qu'on ait l'unité qui soit hébergée par le gouvernement, soit dans le local du ministère en charge du commerce, ou soit dans un local, mais qui est un local soit loué ou mis à disposition par le gouvernement et donc qui n'est pas payé par le projet. Le deuxième critère, c'est qu'on ait une présence de fonctionnaires dans l'équipe de l'unité, même si, comme je l'avais mentionné, on a d'autres membres des équipes qui sont recrutés sur la base de projets, mais avoir des fonctionnaires dans l'équipe permet d'assurer une certaine intégration et durabilité. Le troisième critère, c'est qu'on a l'unité qui joue un rôle dans la coordination de l'aide et aussi l'unité qui facilite la coordination intersectorielle comme cinquième critère. Donc, un pays qui arrive à réunir au moins 4 des 5 critères, on peut considérer que l'unité de ce pays-là est bien intégrée. Maintenant, l'intégration seule, ça ne suffit pas. Est-ce que l'équipe, elle est durable? Donc, on a des unités qui sont intégrées, mais qui ont une durabilité plus ou moins précaire, et des unités qui sont intégrées, mais vraiment durables, comme on a aussi des unités qui ne sont pas tout à fait intégrées. Mais l'élément important sur lequel nous insistons, c'est que la durabilité doit se définir suivant 3 formes. La durabilité institutionnelle, à travers une bonne intégration, à travers la prise de décision qui permet d'assurer cette durabilité, cette intégration. La durabilité des ressources humaines, on en parlait tout à l'heure de la question des fonctionnaires. Donc, lorsque le ministère et le gouvernement arrivent à prendre en charge les membres de l'équipe, on a quand même une certaine durabilité des ressources humaines et aussi un renforcement des capacités d'un grand nombre plus large de fonctionnaires. Et enfin, la durabilité financière pour finir sur ce point, à travers non seulement l'engagement du gouvernement pour donner plus de ressources aux unités, mais aussi la capacité des unités à mobiliser d'autres ressources auprès d'autres partenaires. On va le voir tout à l'heure où on a des équipes qui arrivent quand même à mobiliser des ressources auprès d'autres partenaires. Et aussi, un élément important, c'est la prédisposition des autres partenaires à utiliser les unités pour implémenter leurs interventions. Je pense que ma collègue Marie-Dine STDF nous donnera un aperçu tout à l'heure de comment le STDF arrive à utiliser les unités dans certains pays pour mettre en œuvre les interventions. Donc, je m'arrête là. Mais en tout cas, s'il y a des questions d'éclaircissement, je suis prêt à répondre. Merci beaucoup, monsieur le modérateur. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sambolongo, for some insights on the different formats of the NIUs. So, after his intervention, let us go through to the crux of the matters that we have for the sessions. So, the next part will involve experience sharing from EF countries and agencies. So we have the first round of question, which is on the sustainability. So under this theme of sustainability, we will learn from Vanuatu, Laupedia, and the Central African Republic about their NIU model and sustainability approach, while SDTF will share its experience in using NIU structures for implementing or monitoring its own projects. So let me turn to the speakers. I will start with the ambassador from Vanuatu, Ambassador Antas. The NIU in Vanuatu has evolved into the Vanuatu Aid for Trade Management Unit, which is a more permanent aid for trade management unit with a mandate going far beyond the implementation of the EI projects. So can you shed light on these evolutions? What were the key driving factors of this, and what have been the main challenges along the way so far? So Ambassador Antas, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Coordinator. Welcome to Excellencies Friends, ladies and gentlemen, those in the room and those who are participating online, you know, those of us who are here will understand some of the basic issues about on economics that the economic theory advocates that the relationship between trade and development, trade and productivity means that a wide participation in trade, domestic and international trade leads to improvements in that development. So that is without doubt some of the fundamental thoughts that we must have at all times. So when we are talking about the National Implementation Unit, as has been suggested today, is that we continue to focus on that. Do not lose sight of that. Secondly, it is addressed, it is set up for peoples, for our peoples. So I think in the case of Vanuatu, this is what we are always trying to push, to look at the development dimension, the productivity levels, and additionally that it must continue to focus on people. So decisions that we make has to be for the people of a country. And thirdly, or secondly, the issue of the leadership at the highest level has to be guaranteed. If our NIU sustainability is to be addressed, we have to have the leadership at the highest level. It is not of no use if having leadership that goes on and off, and we're never really sure where the directions should be. So we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to be very brief and allow for opportunity later on for people, my other colleague panelists to speak, as well as to receive questions from the audience. So I've been asked to speak on two particular issues: on the National Implementation Unit sustainability and on the trade mainstreaming. I have to share Vanuatu's experience regarding the evolution of the NIU function into a more permanent Vanuatu aid management unit, and what are the key lessons learned from the process. So firstly, I would say this, that as part of our EIF projects, right, from IF project at the beginning in 2010 and 11, we decided that we would ensure that an implementation unit is established, and the decision for that unit to be established was made at the highest level, which meant that the Council of Ministers, led by our Prime Minister of Vanuatu, agreed that the NIU should be established. So that was a very important part of the decision making right from the beginning. Secondly, that what would the NIU, how would the NIU be established, what the structures, what would it look like? It had to be complemented by the review of the trade policy framework in Vanuatu. So there's two things happening at the same time: the trade mainstream paper that went to the Council of Ministers, and at the same time we were developing a trade policy framework, and to ensure that all of these are all complementing each other. As I said, the leadership at the highest level had to be put on the ground, and a secretariat was established. We decided to have the structure of the Department of External Trade, which would look at the trade negotiations and aid for trade, because there were four things that we identified in the trade policy framework. One was that the contribution of trade into our economic in the economy is obviously significant. All of us know this. One, the trade in goods, what should it involve? Secondly, a paradigm shift into thinking about the trade in services. What should we do about trade in services? Thirdly, looking at our aid for trade, because we cannot talk about all these trade developments without a trade development, our aid for trade component. And then thirdly is to how we should structure the way we conduct our trade policies and trade implementation in Vanuatu. So there's 4 components of the trade policy framework that we had to work on. So on the trade mainstreaming side, it was decided that, okay, who would be responsible for all this implementation of trade policies? It was to be the trade department, the secretariat. And so that was established. The way the mainstreaming worked was that, okay, the trade policy has to be in there. There has to be the secretariat to manage a national trade development committee, which meets regularly, chaired by a minister, and has to make decisions. It's not a trade unit that will go and have a discussion. Oh, we note this, noting this, and consider this. That is not the purpose of NIU. It is to make decisions. So that is something that we had to work very hard on. In the trade negotiation, we were doing trade negotiations at all times. We had to think about what is being addressed in that context of our trade mainstreaming and our trade considerations. So that is, I'd like to very quickly go on the trade mainstreaming side. Domestic investment by the government was essential. Initially, we had donors who were helping us, who were supporting us, but obviously after some time, donor funding will lapse. So we made sure that the government national resources were allocated for this. And over time, this was then entrenched, and the public service, we had to have more reforms, and a trade department and our investment national investment unit became a unit by itself, very strong. All aid for trade has to go through this committee. It doesn't come through that committee, it will never be considered by the government. It will never be considered by our donors. So that's how it was. Some people say that, oh, the Vanuatu experience is quite good, but I will say this, that we must not be complacent thinking that, oh, we're doing so good. It's not. We have to keep changing, reforming, and we continue to commit to that. And I think as part of, I've been here in Geneva and looking at what the EIF evolution over the last couple of years is, because there is a future of the EIF that people are talking about right now. And I have the confidence that all of us who are beneficiaries of the EIF, we are a trusted partner. We're a trusted partner. If donors give to us the funds that for EIF, we will deliver. And I hope that will continue. Not only that, but also to our donors who are helping us. I also call you to continue supporting the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I think you touch upon the point that, when you design the NIU, it's not about just implementing a program, but, to coordinate, policies, which is very important for all the, not just the NIU, but, for the country as a whole, in coordinating aid for trade and coordinating policies and implementations, which is very important. So thank you again. Let us hear another perspective from another country. Next on my list is Ms. Latanapon, who is the NIU coordinator at the Laos Ministry of Industry and Commerce. The NIU in Laos is known as being a large, well-integrated division of the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, which is also responsible for implementing, other non-EAF projects. So with this, can you shed light on the NIU models? What factors have ensured its sustainability beyond EAF programs, and how it has positioned itself as the key aid for trade implementations entities for other development partners? So, Madam, you have 5 minutes. Please, you have.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank for the EIF to having me here today to share NIU model and position as the key aid for trade implementation entity. Similarly to many LDC countries participating, our ministry, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, established NIU after our formal participation in the IF process, and the NIU Lao has gradually transformed itself into the key aid for trade, coordinating and implementing entity. With support from the EIF, especially the EIF Tier 1, we were able to develop NIU as a key aid for trade implementation entity staff with quality project implementation teams to handle all the project implementation from the fiduciary to technical matters, including M&E, communication, and others. Besides support from the EIF establishment of in-country multi-donor trust fund executed by the NIU plays an important role to develop NIU capacity and building confidence among key aid for trade stakeholders. The first phase of the multi-donor trust fund, which started in 2008, it's still ongoing today, and we have planned to develop new phase of trust fund, which will start in 2025. Another important milestone we accomplished in building NIU sustainability was formalization of the NIU as the main aid for trade coordinating and implementing division under the Department of Planning and Cooperation under the ministry. The finalization process didn't stop at the NIU formalization. We look additional steps to develop aid for trade mobilization and utilizations regulations to formalize aid for trade mobilization, program formalization, execution, as well as the monitoring, evaluation, coordination of the NIU, as well as the program government structures under so-called Program Executive Committee and the project-specific review committee that require all country aid for trade project program to adopt. Today, under NIU and Program Executive Committee preview, there are 13 ongoing projects with established amount of over 90 million US dollar, of which NIU, its main executing agency for 2 projects and the main coordinating entity for another 2 projects. And rest of the project are reporting to the Program Executive Committee, which NIU is the technical secretariat. In brief today, NIU perform following key aid for trade coordination and implementation function, such as the secretariat to the policy dialogue under the trade and private sector working group. Second, the secretariat to aid for trade governance structure under Program Executive Committee, and the main implementation entity for multi-sector government executed projects, and main coordinating body for development partners implemented multi-sectors projects, and the main body for the developing and updating trade and private sector development roadmap. And we also act as the one-stop shop for the formulation of all aid for trade project and others. I'm happy to share our experience for the specific questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ratanaporn. I believe that the Laos NIU is one of the success stories of the AI programs. where the NIU not only worked with the EAF but also work with other donors as well to support the trade development in the countries. So thank you very much. Let us turn now to the experience from the Central African Republic. So the next interventions will be by Mr. Edmund Mologodo, who is the NIU coordinator from the Central African Republic. In 2017, the government of the Central African Republic established the sectoral strategy and project management unit, which function as the NIU. So can you briefly describe the NIU model in its institutionalizations, functioning, and its sustainability beyond the phase 2? So Mr. Mologodo, you have the floor.
Merci pour la parole donnée. Je remercie le cadre intégré renforcé pour l'honneur et l'occasion qu'il me donne pour présenter l'expérience de la République centrafricaine en matière de durabilité et de l'intégration du commerce. La République centrafricaine est un pays pauvre et à ce titre, l'intégration de l'UNIMO dans les institutions gouvernementales n'a pas été un processus facile parce que l'État, depuis toujours, met l'accent sur la réduction de la masse salariale et toute démarche tendant à augmenter le nombre des fonctionnaires, à augmenter les charges de l'État, sont soumis à des conditions très difficiles. Alors, depuis l'accession de la République centrafricaine au programme cadre intégré, l'UNIMO a été créé, comme avait si bien dit le coordonnateur, M. Zambelongo, comme un organe ad hoc, un organe essentiellement lié au projet du cadre intégré renforcé. Mais les réalisations et les performances notées de l'UNIMO lui a permis de retenir l'attention des pouvoirs publics, non seulement au niveau du ministère du Commerce, mais au niveau des hautes autorités de l'État. Et aussi, l'autre avantage, c'est que l'UNIMO de la République centrafricaine, au départ, déjà était composé en grande partie des fonctionnaires du ministère du Commerce. Et l'UNIMO, non seulement met en œuvre les projets du cadre intégré renforcé, mais elle était active dans tout le processus d'élaboration, de mise en œuvre et de suivi des plans nationaux successifs de développement dans le pays. Et c'est ainsi que la problématique de l'intégration de l'UNIMO dans les structures pérennes du ministère du Commerce a été facilitée. Donc, c'est en 2017, c'est en 2017 que l'UNIMO de la RCA a été intégré parmi les organes permanents du ministère du Commerce et de l'Industrie. C'est une structure qui est composée, comme je l'ai dit, d'un côté des fonctionnaires et aussi de l'autre des personnels contractuels. Et d'ici la fin du mois en cours, les fonctionnaires contractuels leur contrat va prendre fin et l'UNIMO va continuer à fonctionner avec les fonctionnaires. Le premier défi auquel cette UNIMO est confrontée, c'est bien évidemment la réduction des moyens de travail. Cette UNIMO va continuer à fonctionner, c'est vrai, mais pas avec les moyens comme avec le cadre intégré renforcé. Et les principales missions que cette UNIMO a toujours poursuivies ont été, entre autres, l'appui à tout projet lié à l'aide pour le commerce, à l'élaboration de la stratégie sectorielle du commerce et aussi à l'intégration du commerce dans les différentes politiques de développement qui se sont succédées depuis l'époque des documents de réduction de la pauvreté et autres. Et la question du climat des affaires et autres. Toutes ces questions, toutes les grandes questions qui touchent au commerce sont envoyées, confiées techniquement déjà à l'UNIMO, commerce de la République centrafricaine. En termes de durabilité, l'UNIMO aussi a participé à l'élaboration d'autres projets au niveau national. Il y a le projet pour la promotion de certains produits agricoles, mais aussi le projet sur la zone de libre-échange continentale. L'UNIMO a préparé déjà une proposition de projet et attend la suite. Sur la question de l'intégration du commerce, l'UNIMO participe aux côtés du PNUD au pilotage de la mise à jour qui est financée par le cadre intégré et aussi par le PNUD de République centrafricaine. À ce jour, cette UNIMO joue le rôle de secrétariat, contribue au fonctionnement du secrétariat technique national du nouveau plan de développement qui est en cours d'élaboration en République centrafricaine. Donc, l'UNIMO, dans son agenda global, gère non seulement les projets du cadre intégré, mais aussi a vocation à s'impliquer, à participer, à gérer tous les projets du commerce financés par d'autres partenaires. Voilà un peu l'expérience que la République centrafricaine a. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mologodo, for sharing the experience from your country. To close the presentation on these themes, I would like to invite Ms. Marlene Hopper of the STDF to speak on something slightly different but relevant to the discussion. So just for the STDF, it has made use of the EAF and NIUs to in some LDCs to implement its interventions. So can you share with us your experience in making use of the EAF structure and what has it been unique value propositions of this? Thank you. You have 5 minutes, so please. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. And thanks for enabling us to share our experiences. Most of you know that the STDF is a global partnership to facilitate safe trade that brings together organizations across agriculture, health, trade, and development. And the STDF is providing support to develop and implement projects to facilitate safe trade to address SPS sanitary and phytosanitary gaps and challenges in developing countries and LDCs. And SPS gaps are really one of those key issues that are affecting agri-food trade from LDCs. And so I think it's natural and important that we collaborate with the EIF, also in view of the fact that many of our donors and partners are also the same. I wanted to share a couple of examples this morning of this collaboration on the ground in LDCs and the shape that it has taken. We in the STDF have valued this collaboration with the NIUs, and we have benefited from it because those in-country structures, the NIUs that the EIF has established, have really been a way to have that demand-driven, locally led, great local ownership and commitment project implementing partner for STDF projects. It's provided a way for them to be driven, for them to be able to adapt to challenges, issues that have come up at the country level, because the NIUs are aware of the issues. They are in touch with all of the stakeholders across government, across civil society, with the private sector, and they are very familiar with the in-country situation. So I think, as Ambassador Axel Addy mentioned, that local ownership has been a driving factor. For instance, in Zambia, the NIU led a project that was co-financed by the STDF and EIF to address phytosanitary challenges and gaps that were affecting trade in plants and plant products. So really to benefit people like you see on the screen here. That project was implemented during the global pandemic, when there were many challenges. And I think having the project implemented by the NIU was also really valuable for us at that time, to be on the ground and to be able to adapt and to find solutions to those challenges linked to the pandemic. The project built the skills of the National Plant Protection Organization on phytosanitary regulatory systems for export. It developed plans for legislative change and a strategy to strengthen the NPPO. And I think we have been heartened hearing from some of the stakeholders in the private sector who were involved in that project about how that assistance really shortened processing time and trade costs for them, improved inspection capacity, and expanded their markets into new products and into new markets. And the external project evaluation, which will soon be available on our website, I think identifies how the NIU role was really valuable in terms of the cost-effective contribution, in terms of the NIU's highly qualified and experienced staff that effectively and efficiently dealt with the issues that continue to come up in the project. It commended the project efficiency as quite high when considering the conversion of project funds and expertise to project outputs and outcomes. I think the second reason I would highlight in terms of value for the STDF of engaging with the NIUs has really been about the linkages, the synergies, the trust across government and with other stakeholders like private sector and donors that having the NIU in leading project delivery has really resulted in. In Zambia too, it was really key to have that very effective and good working relationship across the phytosanitary services and with the authorities in trade, because facilitating safe trade is a collaborative effort. And I think the NIU was able to leverage and really maximize those synergies and linkages for good results in Zambia. The external evaluation for the Zambia project also highlighted the important role that the NIU played in interfacing with key donors in the country, like the EU, to share the project's experience and to advocate for more support, because these projects are often small. They address some of the challenges, and there's always a need, as the needs evolve, for more financing, more support to address those new issues and challenges that come up. Burkina Faso is another example of a project that was implemented by the NIU. And there too, the results were excellent in terms of the linkages that the NIU was able to set up with diverse public and private sector stakeholders, including the National Farmers Federation, to improve the quality and safety of maize and to reduce aflatoxin contamination by over 75% and leading to a 25% increase in maize exports in the quantity. Those strong public-private dialogues and relationships that were established also helped the Burkina Faso project to leverage more support, including to scale up and to leverage the strengthened capacity for the maize sector to apply it in new areas like the sesame sector. So I think that leveraging, scaling up capacity result was really important in Burkina Faso. So just to sum up in terms of the value proposition and what that has brought, I think it's really been the local ownership, the commitment, the ability to be reactive, to be flexible, to be able to identify and respond to the challenges as well as the opportunities that come up on the ground locally, because as was also highlighted, the national settings are also so different. The linkages, the dialogue across the SPS agencies and really strengthening that collaboration with the trade ministries, which is so essential for safe trade facilitation, the linkages with the private sector and donors, and really, as I mentioned, the scaling up, the leveraging, and the possibility to build on the results that were delivered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hopper, for sharing this very valuable information. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a little bit late on time, so I would like to request that for the following questions, if you could respond very brief and very succinct, it would be appreciated. So let us move on to themes number 2, which is on trade coordinations. So for trade coordinations, I will pose the questions to Ms. Latanaporn. So Ms. Latanaporn, we know that the NIU in Laos plays a leading role in establishing and operationalizing the trade coordinations mechanism, even prior to the Laos accessions to the WTO. Today, some of these coordination mechanisms have been handed down to other divisions in the ministry. The NIU nonetheless still serve as technical secretariat for some trade coordination mechanisms, such as the Trade and Private Sector Working Group and the Program Executive Committee. So can you tell us more about the NIU's role in this mechanism and the NIU and the EF programs contributions to supporting or facilitating trade coordinations in Laos? If you could respond in 3 minutes, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. Yeah, in my view, all countries face challenges in trade coordination, mainly because of the nature of trade. So the cases should be mainstream into the sector development policy and the strategy. It is difficult to introduce the traditional concept of the sector wide approach in trade sector, because trade it's a cross sector topic. It's mostly impossible to define the boundary between the trade and other sectors. How we overcome the challenges? Again, we use the DTIS as the process to build consensus among the key stakeholders. And I think the emphasis of the action metric developed at the result of the DTIS update. It's a trade and private sector development roadmap, not just a trade development roadmap. It's really important for the simple reason that we cannot develop trade without developing private sectors. Over years, we established several coordination mechanisms, such as the National IF Governance Framework, which later transformed into the Trade and Private Sector Working Group, and the Trade Facilitation Secretariat, which today become National Trade and Transport Facilitation Committee. And another committee is the WTO Accession Secretariat, which is today become a secretariat to the National Economics Integration Committee, and so on. One key lesson we learned from these coordination mechanisms is that all coordination body needs to be involved with the fast-changing environment and the coordination needs. We need to adapt ourselves to fast-changing environment and let poor performing body exist and allow new forms of the coordination to emerge and keep improving continuously. Key results of the improved coordination are affected in several areas. For instance, increase the aid for trade inflows, better coordination, and improve complementarity at the project level, and better result monitoring, promote of the knowledge sharing among the project. Going forward, we are looking at the possible of replication of the EIF practice in reporting and program monitoring. we plan to introduce standard project progress report to producing program level report, like what it's done by the EIF. This is my brief discussion on Lao experience in trade coordination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ratanapon. So we will now move on to the last themes of this session, which is on trade mainstreaming. So for this session, we will learn from the experience from Vanuatu and the Central African Republic. So let me pose the question first to Ambassador Antas. The NIU has provided support to mainstreaming trade in several sectoral strategies, including the Vanuatu's LDC's graduations plan, new trade policy framework. So for this, can you shed light as how the EAF programs and national implementation arrangements have practically supported these trade mainstreaming efforts? Please respond within 3 minutes if you don't mind. Thank you very much, Ambassador.
So thank you very much. I've already mentioned very briefly some of the issues in my earlier intervention, but as I had indicated that the domestic investment by the Vanuatu government and the government priorities, the government and the private sector and non-state actors and our donor community must be part of this process, ensuring that whatever discussions are made, the decisions that are made are also provided to the community as much as possible for people to understand and have some sense of ownership of the trade work that the government and the private sector and the non-state actors have agreed to. We know that we must continue to do more reforms to ensure that the work continues. Our productive sector, our agricultural sector, our tourism, our service sector are all part of this process, and we ensure that they're part of the discussions and also the support from our EIF secretariat, the advisor they provide, bringing participation from our international multilateral agencies, and as I said earlier on, not only partners. In our case, our partners such as Australia, New Zealand, the PACER Plus agreement, our partners such as the European Union, Japan, and all other donors who are part of our trade business. You cannot, as I said earlier on, you cannot talk about any trade issues in Vanuatu without having an intervention made and some decisions or some recommendations made within the part of the EIF. On the trade mainstreaming, there is regular meetings previously chaired by our Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Vanuatu. So there is a high level of participation at the government level, and also bring the decisions of the NTTC to the Council of Ministers, who may take note, or in some instances decided to redirect some of the decisions made by the trade organizations that we have already established. Because Vanuatu graduated from LDC in 2020 at the height of the COVID-19, obviously there were challenges for us, but we took on the idea that we will continue the process, that we are going to take on the challenge, and we're going to deliver product and results for our trade work to the best of our abilities. And also very recently, we also had further reforms and a trade policy review again. So we are going to have to do all this regularly, probably every 3 or 4 years, to ensure that we are doing the right thing. And as I said, complacency, do not think at all that what you're doing now is the best, because you can do better and better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for very brief response to the questions. Next, I want to pose the questions to Mr. Molo Godo of the Central African Republic. We know that the CAR is currently updating its DTIS strategy with the aim to make use of the DTIS to fit into the next National Development Plan. So can you explain to us how trade is being mainstream into the National Development Plan, drawing from the DTIS updates? So Mr. Mologodo, you have 3 minutes, please.
Merci beaucoup. Effectivement, le processus de mise à jour de l'EDIC RCA a commencé depuis quelques mois. Au départ, ce processus n'était pas facilement pris en charge parce que au niveau du cadre intégré renforcé, il y avait un problème de ressources. Mais l'UNIMO s'est adressé plutôt au PNUD qui a accepté de financer une partie des charges liées à cette mise à jour. Et donc, le processus actuellement est presque à sa fin. Le PNUD qui a piloté le processus a organisé avec l'UNIMO l'atelier national de validation. Et l'un des principaux objectifs de cette mise à jour est de faire en sorte que les principales conclusions de l'EDIC, de la nouvelle EDIC, servent à alimenter le plan indicatif de développement qui est en train d'être élaboré. Et donc, le rôle de l'UNIMO dans ce processus, c'est parce que l'UNIMO a été chargé d'établir ce qui est appelé en Centrafrique la fiche sectorielle du commerce pour que cette fiche sectorielle qui contient les priorités, les grands domaines du commerce qui devront être versés dans le plan indicatif de développement soit préparée, élaborée au niveau du ministère du Commerce, mais surtout sous le pilotage de l'UNIMO RCA. Et donc, c'est ce travail-là qui est en cours. J'ai participé à toutes les réunions qui se poursuivent. Et donc, l'objectif, justement, est faire en sorte qu'il y ait une synchronisation entre les conclusions de l'EDIC, de la nouvelle EDIC, et le plan indicatif de développement pour que, par la suite, toutes ces conclusions servent aussi à alimenter une grande étude que le gouvernement a commanditée, qu'on appelle étude prospective 2050, la République centrafricaine d'ici 2050. Voilà tout ce lien-là qui est établi et qui est en train de se dérouler pour que le commerce ne soit pas un secteur mal intégré dans le plan indicatif de développement et aussi dans l'avenir, dans l'étude prospective 2050 de la République centrafricaine. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mologodo, for your very brief response to the question asked. So let us turn now to Ms. Marlene Hopper of the STDF, just to close this first part of our session. I would like to ask her to share her reflections on how the EAF in-country structure or similar aid for trade execution structures could be better enhanced to function as key in-country partners and main implementing entities for other aid for trade support. So, Ms. Hoppers, you have three minutes, please.
Thank you so much. So I'll share a few perspectives, I think, from the STDF's point of view in terms of probably potential future collaborator with NIUs for NIU-led implementation of new STDF projects at the country level. I think for us, what we would be looking for in an NIU partner that would potentially implement future STDF projects would be an NIU where we would see that there's continuing to be an investment in the skills, in the human resources, project management, results-based management, monitoring and evaluation, and so on, so that we can be confident and secure that our implementing partner is remaining up to date and able to successfully implement STDF projects. In that regard too, a second thought could be to continue to build the capacity, and it's really something that the previous speaker from CAR spoke about having NIUs doing the analytical work, identifying the priorities and taking on a greater role in developing demand-driven projects and good project documents that could then be shared with potential donors like the STDF to really get to the next step of implementation and delivery to get to results. And using evidence-based approaches, I think, too, to prioritize some of the project ideas and options, recognizing that there are never enough resources to go around for everything. So really involving the NIUs in developing project ideas, but also prioritizing different project options to understand where it's going to make sense to invest and where there are potentially the best returns. I think thirdly, building those relationships, continuing to deepen those relationships across government and with private sector and civil society is also something that's important. And finally, I think events like this are really important to share and to learn, and probably to guide and inspire NIUs that have not yet innovated or taken on some of those extra roles in terms of project implementation or delivery for other partners to be bold and to experiment and to step forward to do that and to make use of some of those opportunities that exist. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So that's conclude the first part of the sessions. I'd like to thank all speakers for their contributions to the sessions, and all the participants for listening. Yeah, Senegal. It seems that Senegal raises its hand. I'd like to give the floor to Senegal. Is this online? Yeah, Senegal, please online, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, de nous avoir donné la parole. J'espère que vous me recevez.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup. Je remercie le secrétariat exécutif du cadre intégré renforcé pour l'organisation de ce forum. Remercier également tous les intervenants qui ont partagé leur expérience concernant surtout l'unité nationale de mise en œuvre. Mon intervention ne porte pas sur les 4 questions, mais c'était juste pour indiquer qu'il me semble important de renforcer la collaboration entre les unités nationales de mise en œuvre et le STDF, parce que j'ai entendu toujours l'intervention, ne serait-ce que pour aider les pays les moins avancés à surmonter les défis liés à la conformité aux normes sanitaires et phytosanitaires, et d'améliorer un peu les possibilités d'accès au marché et des paiements. Parce que l'intégration dans le système commercial multilatéral des paiements nécessite véritablement le fait de relever un peu les défis liés aux obstacles qui concernent les mesures sanitaires et phytosanitaires qui entravent véritablement les possibilités d'accès au marché de ces pays les moins avancés. C'est pourquoi il me semble important de renforcer la collaboration entre les unités nationales de mise en œuvre et le STDF pour relever ces défis-là. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Senegal. Let me give the floor to Angola. If Angola has any questions or comments, and then I will turn to the speakers to respond. Please, Angola, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je n'ai pas tout à fait de questions, mais je voulais faire une déclaration parce que
Je suis venu en tant que représentant du gouvernement. Je suis le secrétaire d'État au commerce et responsable un peu du cadre intégré dans notre pays. Donc, je voulais saluer et remercier d'abord le secrétariat exécutif du cadre intégré pour organiser ce forum global. Comme vous savez, la République de l'Angola fait partie des PMA et a bénéficié de l'assistance technique liée au commerce avec le projet d'appui institutionnel et renforcement des capacités institutionnelles et humaines. L'objectif du projet a été très pertinent dans la mesure où il s'est inscrit dans la stratégie du plan de développement national avec son programme d'appui à la production nationale. Ce projet de renforcement des capacités institutionnelles et humaines a été conçu pour appuyer les efforts du gouvernement après la fusion en 2020 des ministères de l'Industrie et du Commerce à une seule institution, responsable de la mise en œuvre de la politique industrielle et commerciale. Après cette fusion qui s'est inscrite dans le cadre des réformes en cours dans l'Angola depuis 2017, beaucoup de cadres seniors ont été, avec une expérience avérée, ont été mis à retraite pour avoir atteint l'âge requis, et ça ainsi un vide qui ne pouvait être comblé que par un renforcement des capacités humaines des cadres juniors. Dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de ce projet, un plan de travail a été établi qui a un résultat positif lors de la mise en œuvre, atteignant 100% d'exécution dans la période d'avril 2022 à mars 2023. Il faut dire que 6 séminaires de formation ont été organisés sur différentes thématiques. Un séminaire de sensibilisation sous le cadre intégré lui-même, un séminaire sur la facilitation des échanges dans le cadre de la formation de l'unité nationale angolaise, un séminaire sur l'intégration régionale lié à notre participation dans le cadre de la SADC et de la zone de commerce libre continentale africaine, un séminaire sur les mesures correctives qui aboutit à la création de l'unité technique chargée des mesures de défense commerciale, un séminaire sur le mécanisme d'examen de la politique commerciale pour mieux préparer notre 3e examen de politique commerciale qui aura lieu en 2024. Il faut dire que plus de 200 fonctionnaires publics et du secteur privé ont participé à ces séminaires, dont 38% des femmes. Souligner aussi que notre édit est en cours d'élaboration par la Banque mondiale. Nous espérons que jusqu'à la fin de l'année, nous pouvons présenter l'édit dans notre pays. Je voulais aussi référer que, à la lumière des activités réalisées, on peut conclure que le projet a atteint ses objectifs dans la mesure où les résultats obtenus sont très satisfaisants. S'il est vrai que le DIMO n'a pas été créé dans le vrai sens, une unité ad hoc a été mise en place, formée par 2 cadres supérieurs angolais avec l'appui du PNUD, et ce qui a permis la réalisation des séminaires déjà indiqués. Et nous devons souligner que malgré cet aspect, 3 unités techniques, notification, mesures correctives et mécanismes d'examen de politique commerciale, ont permis une véritable appropriation nationale dans les domaines dans lesquels les pays bénéficiaires avaient jusqu'ici besoin de l'assistance technique. Nous attendons la continuation de cet important programme pour mieux intégrer le commerce dans le plan de développement national. Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Yes, thank you very much, Angola. Since we are very short of time, maybe just to respond to some comments made by Senegal, if you don't mind, I would like to invite Ms. Hopper, if you'd like to respond briefly to what has been raised by Senegal regarding the cooperation between the NIU and the SDTF. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to Senegal for the the comment and about the strengthening collaboration, I think I would just say that we would look forward to further discussing how we can do that in Senegal. Senegal was previously the beneficiary of an STDF project that was led by the NIU in Senegal, focused on the cabbage sector with good results. And I think we would look forward to seeing how we could further engage with Senegal in terms of new STDF projects, and looking forward to the views from the NIU stakeholders as well on what they see as the new areas for collaborative, innovative projects that would be eligible for potential STDF support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seems that we have 1 minute left on my clock. But since there is a raise of hand from Madagascar, is this online? Yeah, so I'd like to give the floor to Madagascar online. Please be very brief with your questions or comments. Thank you.
Allô, bonjour tout le monde. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
We can hear you. Please go ahead, please.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Alors, bonjour tout le monde et merci pour les différents présentateurs et intervenants. C'est très intéressant. Ma question concerne l'intervention de l'AO, concerne plus précisément la réflexion sur les arrangements nationaux de mise en œuvre ou le mécanisme de coordination assuré par l'UNMO. Avec 13 projets et 90 millions pour l'ensemble du projet, je trouve que l'UNMO joue un rôle très important dans ce pays. Et j'imagine donc le rôle sur la capacité, la coordination, le mainstreaming du commerce et le leadership de haut niveau au niveau du pays, au niveau du gouvernement peut-être. Et je crois que c'est une expérience qu'il faut exploiter pour la plupart des PMA. Et si l'AO peut élaborer une petite fiche didacticielle ou petite fiche d'enseignement à exploiter, parce que j'imagine que le fonds catalytique du CIR, c'est très bien pour amorcer donc le processus, mais je trouve que cela ne va pas être suffisant pour le développement du commerce dans le pays, mais il faut vraiment une capacité comme la hausse a présenté tout à l'heure pour mobiliser les ressources. Et je crois que est-ce qu'on peut attirer l'attention donc de tous les intervenants par rapport à cela? Et si le programme CIR va être continué ultérieurement, je propose d'orienter donc sur le renforcement de l'UNMO dans cette mobilisation, capacité d'organisation, capacité de coordination de tous les projets d'aide pour le commerce, comme a fait montre le LAO, donc dans ce cas, parce que devant le paysage institutionnel dans le pays, il y a le Comité national de facilitation des échanges, il y a les DIC, il y a les zones de libre-échange, il y a la politique commerciale, la politique de développement, et il y a également les donateurs. Je crois que l'UNMO a un rôle très important à jouer et l'expérience de là-haut, à mon avis, aide à tout cela. Merci beaucoup.
We understand your question. I think just to close out this first session, maybe I'd like to invite Ms. Latanapon to respond to the questions from Madagascar, and then we can close this first session. Please.
Thank you. Let me share with Madagascar regarding our governance who work closely with the different partner and NIU as a secretariat. So we have trade and private sector working group, which is chaired by our ministers and ambassador for the EU and previous Australian ambassadors. So this structure we established since 2012, and we also have the mechanism to monitoring the project under the ministry, which is I just mentioned earlier, like we call program executive committee. and we also have the with which structure shared by the ministers, and we use this structure to approve all the aid for trade project under the ministry. And we also have the structure to monitor the 6 months implementation of each project. Sometimes we check the project shared by the deputy ministers, and some project which is the small project, we have the specific or the relevant department to take care or to monitor these kind of small projects, which is really challenges for us, but we have the structure that we implement over 10 years. And if you would like to see or learn more about our experience, you can access to our website, which is a trade Lao Aid for Trade.org, or maybe you can directly contact me. I'm happy to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that wrap up our first sessions of the EAF Global Forums. I'd like to end by thanking once again our speakers, Ambassador Antas from Vanuatu, Ms. Latanapon from Lao PDR, Mr. Zabolongo from the EAF Secretariat, Ms. Hopper from the STDF, and Mr. Mologodo from the Central African Republic. Thank you so much for your time and contributions to this session. Thank you. And we close the first session. Thank you very much.